Okay, good morning everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the Cambridge City Council Licensing Committee meeting. This includes members here in the chamber, officers attending virtually, public speakers, and those members of the public who are watching this meeting on YouTube. My name's Councillor Bird and I'm chair of this committee. Please can those present in the council chamber note that everything on your desk, including your laptop screen, could be broadcasted at some point. If you're following the Teams meeting here in the chamber on your laptop, your audio, microphone and camera must be switched off. The camera follows the microphone being switched on, so those in chamber are requested to wait a couple of seconds before speaking to allow the camera to catch up. Please switch your microphones off when you finish speaking, and if the fire alarm sounds, please follow officers who will leave you to the chamber and make their way down the stairs to assembly point. Do not use the lift. Please, can those who are participating in the Teams meeting indicate that you wish to speak via the chat column or raise your hand? Please do not use the chat column for any other purpose. Make sure that your devices is fully charged and that you switch your microphones off unless you're invited to speak. Please ensure that you have switched off and silenced any other devices you have so they do not interrupt the proceedings. If using a handset when speaking, please hold the microphone close to your mouth. When you're invited to address the meeting, please make sure your microphone is switched on. When you finish addressing the meeting, please turn your microphone immediately off. Speaking slowly, clearly, and please do not talk or interrupt anyone. I will now ask councillors and officers to introduce themselves. So I'll start with Councillor McPherson.
Councillor McPherson, Chair Hinton Ward.
Councillor Rosie Moore, Coleridge Ward.
Councillor Alex Collis, Kings Hedges Ward.
Councillor Bennett, Abbey Ward.
Councillor Pagecroft, Queen Edith Ward.
Yvonne O'Donnell, Environmental Health Manager.
Sarah Steed, Meeting Producer.
James Goddard, Committee Manager.
Lovely, thank you very much. Do we have any apologies? No? Okay, lovely, thank you. Any declarations of interest?
Chair, I don't think Councillor Dryden's here, so should I take that as apology? Or Councillor Flaubert?
I haven't heard anything from any of them. Yeah. So, absent, I think. Yeah. Sorry, declarations of interest? No? Okay. Minutes of the last meeting held on the 31st of January 2020. Has everyone read the minutes? Are there any matters arising from the minutes? No? So can I sign them as true and correct? Yep, lovely, thank you very much. Okay, we now go to item 4, public questions. So, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I don't know names, so I'll start with you. And if you could introduce yourself, please.
My name is Kamil Winek and I am a Hackney Carriage operator.
Okay.
I'm Afsal Aslam, part of CCLT.
I am Ahmed Karahmed, Chairman of CCLT.
Which gentleman would like to go first? Okay.
Hi, my name is Kamil Winek. I'm a Hackney Carriage operator. CCTV in taxis are a good idea for
And-
safety of the...
If I may interrupt, Chair, just sorry for public. Did you want to set any time limit for the speakers and just forewarn them maybe it's 3 minutes with a bell or something like that? Just, it's your discretion, Chair.
I shouldn't take more than 3 minutes.
Right, okay, so you've got 3 minutes anyway,
Okay, thank you. So CCTV in the taxis are a good idea for safety and passengers and the drivers. However, before committee will hit tradesmen with these costs, we need to look at the bigger picture. Last few years, dear committee made important changes and create additional expenses to Hackney Carriage vehicles. The vehicle cost rose over 200% since you forced us into electric vehicles. Okay, the trade opinion was clear. We're not ready, cars are not ready, and the Cambridge charging infrastructure is not ready. Licensing fees increased substantially in the last few years. To clarify for the Cambridge News, current licensing fees has not been freezed. Only the increase of those licensing fees was freezed. So we still pay full price on our renewals. All those costs, combined with fuel and energy prices at all-time high, made the Hackney carriage trade unstable. Average Hackney carriage operator working full-time hours can meet minimum wage per hour. I understand the committee members are not businessmen, but you actually fully controlling and regulating a Hackney carriage business. Workers of that business can meet minimum wage working full-time hours. That is not fit and proper regulations. Dear committee, a duty for the council to supply sustainable and accessible Hackney carriage service to the public. On January licensing meeting, committee member said, we do actually care about taxis in Cambridge. Dear committee, I understand is unable to actually care about trade if you do not understand running costs of the Hackney carriage business. When we can expect a Hackney carriage running cost exercises made by the council? Show that you truly care and made them before CCTV implementation. Please have a bit of common sense and don't allow us to work below minimum wage any longer. We deserve working rights wages as a minimum level of regulations to the Hackney carriage trade, which caring committee should provide. I repeat myself, when we can expect running costs exercises for Hackney carriage trade. Thank you.
Chair. So I am speaking to the trade around various issues. I've got a meeting with the trade this week. I've agreed to meet you all face to face to discuss some of these issues. I'm also meeting with Councillor Rosie Moore and Councillor Jerry Bird after this meeting to discuss some of the issues that you have already raised with me over the last 6 months. So these issues are being picked up. What I would say, though, is not the licensing authority's responsibility to look at your business case and your running costs of your business. As a business, that is your responsibility, and that's not an exercise I am prepared that we will be doing, because every business is different. Every business can run their business differently. I don't think I've got anything else to add at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, Afsar Aslam, part of CCLT. There are some clear privacy concerns. It transpires that many of these CCTV systems are active whenever the vehicle is running. The cameras operate continuously, even when the driver is using the taxi privately. This means the camera is recording when drivers are picking up their children from school, going shopping, with the family or travelling whilst on holiday. Just like the rest of us, taxi drivers are entitled to privacy, and that right is now enshrined in GDPR law. The GDPR clearly states that processing of personal data be for a specific purpose and opportunity. Therefore, if the taxi is used by the drivers for private or domestic purpose, it is likely to be unlawful, according to the ICO unlawful, unfair and excessive under data protection legislation and in the breach of Article 8 of the Human Rights Act 1998. Many taxis have cameras but no black box, around 90%. We are struggling with COVID and slow work. We have had many changes which are crippling us. Warrington Council have implemented camera systems, but they've allowed their drivers to turn on and off when they are working. If the meter is turned on, the camera turns on, but they have full access to the cameras and to the black box. Obviously, they cannot delete. We suggest council pay for CCTV and box or subsidise, allow our cameras and supply the black box. And we also ask for a delay of 2 years as we are sort of struggling with the trade at the moment. I think it would be fair to delay this for 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So on the issue around CCTV in taxis, private hire and Hackney carriages, once you're a licensed Hackney carriage or private hire, you are always a Hackney carriage or private hire. And so any activity that goes on whilst you're a licensed vehicle remains the responsibility of the taxi driver and the authority as well. So even though you may be doing some private business, you are always a Hackney carriage or private hire vehicle, and therefore you are always licensed with the organisation. As I said before, the camera needs to remain on for the purposes of the safety of the driver and the passenger. Not all vehicles, like private hire vehicles, would have a meter, so turning up the camera on when the meter is on wouldn't necessarily be a reasonable solution or a feasible solution. We are looking at the specification at the moment, again, and I won't repeat what's in the committee report until we come to that item on the agenda. So whatever we introduce will be ICO compliant, we will be GDPR compliant, and we will ensure that whatever system we do introduce over the time will be legal and above board. Thank you.
Yes, you can come back.
I would suggest just to have a look at what Warrington Council have implemented, because they've already sort of implemented this, and they've allowed their drivers to have full access to the black box and also turn on and off. I understand what you're saying, but I think if a driver is on holiday, he should have the right to be able to turn off, because unless you implement that taxis are not allowed to be used as social and domestic purpose.
Something we will need to consider. However, as I said, once a taxi, always a taxi, and it's then therefore a licensed premise or a licensed vehicle that remains the responsibility of our licensing authority whilst we've issued that license to that vehicle and the activities that remain in that vehicle as well. We will look at other local authorities. CCTV has been introduced in a number of local authorities across the country, and we will be looking at different models, which we've already done in the past. But I'll go through that when I go through my report as the next agenda item. Thank you.
Did you want to speak, sir? Okay, well, you're quite welcome to stay and listen to the debate. Okay, thank you. And thank you very much for coming. Now go on to agenda item 5, which is CCTV in Hackney carriage and private hire vehicles. I'll pass you on to Yvonne O'Donnell.
Thank you, Chair. So the installation of CCTV in Hackney Carriage and private hire vehicles was agreed by members of the Licensing Committee in October 2017. In September 2020, members agreed an implementation date of the 1st of April 2022, whereby all taxis and private hire would have CCTV installed in them. Due to procurement issues, it has been difficult to secure an appropriate approved supplier, and with the COVID pandemic, the 1st of April 2022 date will not be met. Furthermore, new statutory guidance which came out in January 2021, which was adopted by the Licensing Authority in July 2021, requires further evidence-based work to be carried out to demonstrate that CCTV is necessary to meet a pressing need and it is proportionate. And therefore, I'm asking this committee to approve the City Council to conduct a review of the requirements of CCTV in licensed premises, which will also look at different models around the country, and working with the ICO and to ensure that we implement a system that is legal and above board, to continue working with South Cams to identify an appropriate supplier if the pressing need is met, and to approve that officers return to the Licensing Committee in June 2022 to present the outcomes of the review and propose new implementation date if a pressing need and proportionality need is met. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Yvonne. Okay, is there any members would like to speak on this item? Bennett.
I'd just like to ask a really stupid question. What happens to requirement to have CCTV while we're doing this review?
We need to do the review to ensure that we have a robust system in place, and therefore we will not be requiring the drivers to install mandatory CCTV whilst we carry out this review, because whatever the outcome of the review, we would, if we're challenged in court, we need to ensure that we can rebut any challenge we do have.
Anybody else? Councillor McPherson.
Yeah, just a quick one really. As this is a review and it's not, we're not saying that it has to be done now, it's just a review and a catch-up. I'm minded to say, to vote for this, but I would like to say that the gentlemen present have come up with some valid points. And what I would like to see that within that review, that I know that, Yvonne, you've already addressed those points, but I'd like to see within that review, I'd like to see those points actually looked at. They've taken the trouble to come here, and I think it's important that those points are officially addressed, and that review includes their concerns and their questions, and that when the report comes out, that they're specifically addressed, as these gentlemen have taken the time and the trouble to come here to ask those questions and represent their colleagues. So along with the review, just to address those questions and the reasons why we are or are not going to take them on board, and that's it really. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure Yvonne will take that away and check. Councillor Bennett?
I have another stupid question, which is, does June give you enough time to do this report? There seem to be some quite complex issues. Would it be better to give yourself longer? Because it's important this is as thorough as possible.
Thank you for raising that, Councillor Bennett. I can perhaps amend the recommendation for an October return. Instead, all I would also say is that we are working with South Cams District Council so that if we implement a system, we are implementing it across both authorities at the same time frame, with the same supplier. So I would be happy to take that amendment away if that's what people are satisfied with.
Yep, thank you for that, Yvonne. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Rosie.
Thank
Sorry,
you. I just
Councillor
want, I just wanted to say that I support the recommendations, that it makes most sense to carry out a review, and I also support the amendment to give the team a bit more time to do it. And it is important that we do work in partnership with South Cambridgeshire Council over this where possible, but obviously we do also have to do what we as a council believe to be the right thing for ourselves and for our residents. Thank you, and our drivers.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor McPherson?
I'll say no more, actually. Rosie said it, so I also support that we go to an October review.
Okay, thank you. Any more debate?
Hi, my understanding is South Cambridgeshire, haven't they delayed theirs for 2 years as well? I think at the end of 2023.
That's not my understanding. We are working together with South Cams and we will be implementing. We're going through the procurement at the moment to see what suppliers are out there and how we can work with procurement. But they are following the same route as we are. And that's why we haven't put an implementation date to date for the purposes, because we don't actually know what the review is going to highlight and the time frame for that review. As already mentioned, we will hopefully bring this back in October with whether it's a feasible option or not, whether it's a legal option or not. And if it is, we will then bring in a reasonable implementation time, but it will be in line with the South Cambs District Council as best we can.
Okay, if there's no more debate, then can I put in for the amendments? So on page 13 of your agenda pack, 2.3, where it says members are recommended to approve the licensing officer returning to licensing committee in June 22, that we now amend it to October 22. So to do this, we need to vote on the amendment first. So please can I have a show of hands on the amendment?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. So we now go to the full recommendations, which is again on page 13, 2.1 to 2.3. I'll take it in block if everyone's happy. All those in favour of the recommendations?
That's all, Chair.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. And before I go, I need to put an apology in. I didn't introduce Paul Weller, who's our legal officer. So I'm very sorry, Paul, but just to let people know that you were there. And can I thank you very much for coming, gentlemen. It's very kind of you, and it's good to hear what you've got to say as well.
Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, everybody. And I now close the meeting. Thank you very much.